For 217 days, nobody wanted the 95-pound Doberman in Kennel 6. 11 families walked past him, 2 filled out paperwork and then changed their minds in the parking lot. Everyone in Frisco, Texas agreed on one thing. A dog that looked like that did not belong anywhere near a child. 3 different shelter volunteers had quietly recommended he be moved to a no-contact kennel. And then a single mother with an 18-month-old daughter signed the only adoption paper that man had ever signed without reading twice. What that dog did on the 12th night she owned him is the reason a little girl named Poppy is alive today. His name, when she got him, was just a number. The shelter called him 6 after his kennel because his previous owner had surrendered him without one. A 95-pound chocolate and rust Doberman with a coat like polished walnut, ears that stood at attention even in his sleep, and a stare so steady that grown men found reasons to be somewhere else. He had been at the Collin County shelter for 217 days, longer than any dog there. The staff had a word for the ones like him: unplaceable. Not because he was vicious, he had never so much as bared a tooth. Unplaceable because of what people saw when they looked at him: a weapon, a liability, a lawsuit with pause. Megan Doyle was 29 years old and had not planned on adopting a dog that week, that month, or that year. She was a single mother working 2 jobs, a dental hygienist by day and a grocery shift on weekends, raising an 18-month-old named Poppy in a small rented house off El Dorado Parkway. The last thing her budget needed was 95 pounds of dog, but her brother had been broken into the month before, 3 streets over. And the second night Megan woke at 4 a.m. convinced she had heard glass, she decided that fear was more expensive than dog food. She went to the shelter looking for something medium-sized and unremarkable. She found 6 instead, or rather 6 found her. When she walked past Kennel 6 with Poppy on her hip, the Doberman who had ignored 217 days of foot traffic stood up. He did not bark, he did not lunge. He walked to the front of the kennel, sat down, and looked at Poppy with an expression Megan would spend months trying to describe and never quite manage. Recognition, maybe, like he had been waiting for a specific face and had finally seen it. The shelter director, a weathered man named Hal who had run the place for 18 years, did not sugarcoat it. He's the smartest dog in this building, and the saddest. His owner trained him for protection, then got sick and couldn't keep him. 11 families have looked at him. The ones who weren't scared wanted a guard dog, and I won't send a dog like this somewhere he'll just be a tool on a chain. He needs a family. Hal looked at Poppy, then at the dog. He hasn't taken his eyes off your daughter since you walked in. Megan should have said no. Everyone in her life would later tell her she should have said no. Her mother said it on the phone that night. A Doberman with a baby? Are you out of your mind? Her coworker said it the next morning. Those dogs turn. You read about it. Even the vet tech who did 6's intake exam gave her a long, careful look and asked if she was sure. But Megan kept coming back to the way the dog had sat down, so gently, like he understood that the small human on her hip was made of something breakable. She signed the papers on a Friday. She renamed him Atlas on the drive home because he carried himself like he was holding something up. The first week was an education in being watched. Atlas followed Megan and Poppy through the house with a quiet, constant attention that took some getting used to. When Poppy napped, he lay outside her door. When Poppy ate in her high chair, he sat 6 feet away, alert, cataloging every dropped Cheerio like it was evidence. When Megan gave Poppy a bath, Atlas stationed himself in the bathroom doorway and did not move until the towel came out. He was not anxious, he was on duty. Megan started calling him the supervisor. By the end of that first week, Poppy had a new favorite word, and it was a garbled, delighted version of his name that came out sounding like Lass. Here's something most people get wrong about this breed. Dobermans were created in Germany in the 1890s by a man named Karl Doberman, a tax collector and part-time dog catcher who needed a companion brave enough to walk dangerous roads with him. They were bred not for aggression, but for loyalty, intelligence, and an almost supernatural awareness of the people they belong to. A well-bonded Doberman doesn't see your child as something to guard, he sees your child as part of his own family, and there is nothing on this earth he takes more seriously than that. If you're still watching and you haven't subscribed yet, I'll be honest with you, that stings a little. We put our whole hearts into telling these stories the right way. Hit that subscribe button, because what Atlas did on night 12 is the kind of thing you will want to have been here for. By the second week, the bond between Atlas and Poppy had become the center of gravity in that little house. She would crawl across the living room and use his side to pull herself to standing, both fists gripping his fur, and Atlas would hold himself rigid as a fence post until she was steady. She fell asleep against his ribs more than once, and Megan learned to take the photo quietly and let them both lie there. He let her tug his ears. He let her share her crackers, taking them from her sticky fingers with a delicacy that seemed impossible for a mouth that size. The first time Poppy stumbled and bumped her head on the coffee table, Atlas was between her and the corner before the cry even came, and Megan stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, watching a 95-pound Doberman gently nose her sobbing daughter as if to ask where it hurt. There was a routine to him by then, a precision Megan never had to teach. Every morning at 6:40, Atlas would pad to Poppy's door and wait, never whining, never scratching, just sitting until he heard her stir. Every evening, he positioned himself at the exact midpoint between the front door and wherever Poppy happened to be, a 95-pound compass needle that always pointed at the one thing he had decided mattered. Megan started sleeping through the night for the first time since Poppy was born, not because the fear of a break-in had left her, but because she had finally handed it to someone she trusted to carry it. Outside the house, the world had not changed its mind. A neighbor named Greg made a comment over the fence about how he'd call animal control the first time that thing growled. A woman at the park gathered her own children and left when Megan arrived with Atlas on a leash and Poppy in the stroller. Megan stopped explaining. She had learned that you cannot argue someone out of a fear they have decided to keep. Then came the night that changed all of it. It was a Tuesday in late March, 12 days after Megan brought Atlas home. Texas had been swinging between warm afternoons and cold nights, and Poppy had picked up a cough that the pediatrician said was just a seasonal thing, nothing to worry about. Megan put her down at 8 p.m., checked the monitor twice, and finally let herself sleep around 11, bone tired from a double shift. She did not hear anything wrong. There was nothing to hear. That was the terrifying part. At 2:51 a.m., Atlas began to bark. Not his rare, low warning bark. This was frantic, sharp, relentless, a sound Megan had never heard from him in 12 days. She came up out of sleep with her heart slamming, certain someone was breaking in, and ran to find Atlas not at the front door, but at the foot of Poppy's crib, throwing his whole body up against the rails, barking and pawing and looking back at Megan with an urgency that made no sense until she got close. Poppy was not crying. Poppy was not making any sound at all. Her lips had gone a dusky gray, her little chest was working too hard for too little air, and the cough that the doctor had called nothing had become a swollen, closing airway in the middle of the night. Croup, the ER doctor would call it later, the severe kind that can turn a sleeping toddler critical in the dark while her exhausted mother sleeps 8 feet away. Megan scooped Poppy up and was out the door in under 2 minutes, Atlas circling her legs the entire way to the car. She ran every red light on Eldorado Parkway with one hand on the wheel and one hand reaching back to feel Poppy's chest rise and fall, while Atlas sat upright in the passenger seat, eyes fixed on the child, perfectly still in a way that somehow steadied Megan's shaking hands. At the hospital, they took Poppy back immediately. The doctor told Megan plainly that another 20 minutes might have been the difference between a scary night and an unthinkable one. The dog the whole town called dangerous had heard a child stop breathing through the bars of a crib while two-legged adults heard nothing at all. When they came home 2 days later, Poppy pink-cheeked and loud and demanding, Megan sat down on the kitchen floor and pulled Atlas against her and cried into his neck until the fur was wet. 11 families had looked at this dog and seen a threat. She had nearly been the 12th person to walk away. "You knew," she whispered into him. "You knew before any of us." Atlas pressed his great head over her shoulder and held still, the way he held still for Poppy, the way he had been holding still and holding watch his entire misunderstood life. Some stories stay with you long after you've heard them, and this is one Megan needed the world to know. She had spent years being afraid of the wrong things. Today, Poppy is 4. She calls him Lass still, and he answers to it like it was always his name. Greg, the neighbor who threatened to call animal control, now keeps a bag of treats by his fence and slips Atlas one over the top every evening. The woman from the park apologized eventually, the way people do when shame finally outweighs fear. And every single night, last thing before the house goes dark, Atlas walks the same slow circuit. The front door, the back door, the windows, and finally Poppy's room, where he stands in the doorway just long enough to hear her breathing, slow and steady and safe, before he lies down across the threshold to begin the only work he ever wanted. When a dog watches a door too closely, when he refuses to relax, when he stares in a way that makes us uneasy, we are so quick to call it a threat. But maybe what we are looking at is devotion we have not learned to read. Maybe the dogs the world is most afraid of are simply the ones paying the closest attention. Atlas was never a weapon. He was a guardian the whole time, waiting 217 days for someone worth guarding. And if Megan Doyle could go back to that shelter and stand in front of Kennel 6 again, she would not hesitate for a single second. She would sign the same paper twice as fast. So let me ask you, if you had walked past that kennel on day 217, would you have seen a dangerous dog, or would you have seen Atlas? Tell me in the comments.